As I'm sure most of you know, I've been away for the last month serving a monastery, the Life-Giving Spring in California. And, you know, there we were doing liturgy every day, but I had to be there at 2:30 in the morning. And we finished roughly around 6 a.m. And it was such a beautiful experience. And I was, when the Greek language requires your mouth to be exercised because of all the consonants. And all the services were 100% in Greek, okay? So it took me a few days to get my jaw, to be comfortable, to speak properly. And, we're not opposed to doing all Greek liturgies here. If there are people, there's a need, and like, oh, Father, could we do it this day? We'll do it all Greek, okay? Happy to do that. It's not about pro-Greek or pro-English. It's about a tool to communicate. And for the reasons of Eudodia, she wants to have the services all in Greek. Though it happened after yet another friend passed away, that they now have the epistle in Greek and English and the gospel in Greek and English. But that's it. Hear the gospel and the epistle. But anyways, so my first liturgy back here by myself, and I'm just reminiscing, so forgive me about, doing all those liturgies for the sisters. And what also brings them to mind is that it was Abbess Markella. She is the one who introduced me to Saint Menas and how important Saint Menas is and how important he can be when we have difficulties. So just a little bit about Saint Menas' life. Saint Menas lived in the latter part of the 3rd and the early part of the 4th century. He was a highly decorated soldier in the imperial army. And he was just torn up inside about the paganism that was surrounding him and all the worship of the idols and watching his fellow military officers and soldiers just bow down to the idols. And he just couldn't take it anymore, so he decided to resign from military service and to go to live alone on a mountain as an ascetic. And by God's providence, it was revealed to him that in the town below where he was living in the mountains, in Kodiaon, in this town, they were having a pagan festival. So he comes down from the mountain and begins to preach to these pagan worshipers. And the eparch of the city, whose name was Pyrrhus, confronts Menas and says, hey, you need to be quiet. You can't be talking about this. And he would not. He continued to preach the gospel. So he was arrested and he was thrown into prison. And then ultimately he endured many different tortures until finally they cut off his head. Saint Menas, a church later on was built over his body. And he has been a miracle worker ever since he passed away. In fact, it's interesting that they attribute Saint Menas to achieving victory for the Allies in the desert in Egypt. And there's a specific battle where Rommel was defeated, the great German officer, tank officer, and that battle is in Arabic, because it doesn't make sense to us, but in Arabic that battle is actually called the Battle at the Tomb of Saint Menas. And it is actually known to be pivotal in changing the whole war front there in Egypt with Rommel. Anyways, so my wife and I'll just share with you one miracle of Saint Menas. my wife and I were having a lot of trouble with the IRS. And what had happened is that back, I forget what year it was, 2012, 2013, maybe it was 2015, someone had broken into the computers in the Catholic Archdiocese, and my wife was serving as a substitute teacher. And hacking into their database, they stole a number of Social Security numbers. You know, how is it my phone is on? Usually I turn the ringer up, but I guess I left it on, so I'm sorry about that. Anyways, so her identity was stolen. And as a result of that, someone had filed false income taxes in the state of California to get money from the state of California. And the state of California said that this Social Security number, which belonged to my wife, that we owed about $2,500 in taxes to the state of California. This was completely unknown to us until we filed our federal income taxes, and the federal government said, you've already filed your taxes. And we're like, no, we haven't. And they said, okay, well, fill out all these forms to show us that, you know, someone had filed falsely on your account. And we did, and it was all taken care of with the federal government. But the state of California, no. So I don't know anything about any taxes being filed in the state of California until I get a letter from Bank of America telling me that they're going to take the $2,500 that we owe the state of California from our checking account on such and such a day. And if you believe this to be an error, contact the California State Franchise Board. Like, oh my goodness. So when they mail a letter like that, they say they're going to withdraw it in 10 days. And so it takes a week to get the letter. So there's 3 days, right, left before they pull the money. So I called up the California Franchise Board, Tax Franchise Board in California, and they said, okay, you need to submit all these documents, which I did. It was a hassle to grab all these documents, submit them. And then they said, okay, well, we will review them so your case will be pending, but we don't have enough time to reverse taking the money, so it's going to be taken, but we'll give it back to you, okay? Which they did with a $100 service fee, okay? So mind you, I started receiving letters every 6 months from the state of California. Every time, I would have to refile the papers. And they would take the money and give it back to me minus $100. So I'm down $600 after 3 years to the state of California. Like, I've got to get a lawyer, right? Someone who's going to fight for me. And like, well, geez, you know, how much is a lawyer going to cost? And so I'm talking with Abbess Markella about this. She goes, Father, like basically, what's wrong with you? You need to pray to Saint Menas. Okay. So we did a prayer service to Saint Menas. I don't know what it was. 2 weeks later, maybe 3 at the very most, I got a letter from the state of California that everything had finally been cleared up. Saint Menas. Someone who has to go to battle for you, right? And it's funny, you know, here we are as Orthodox Christians, and we don't realize the power that we have with our saints. We're like, we're powerless. No, we have saints, right? Oh, and there's so many great stories of saints going after people, right? Because they're real. Because Christ has risen from the dead. And so if you have any sort of need, a problem, Saint Menas. You know, when you read the life of Saint Menas, it says, he answers all those who pray to him with faith. He answers. It's not like he doesn't help. No, He's just waiting to help. We just have to ask. So God bless all of you today as we celebrate St. Menas. We have, I know Mike Simenderis is named Menas. I'm not sure, do we have any other one? Anybody in the parish, Menas? Anyways, Kronyapala. To him and to all of us, we celebrate this great saint. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.